In terms of your motivations, Richard, when you think back to when you first started out, what motivated you back then and what motivates you today?
I think it's very much the same thing. I mean, my first venture, I was 15 years old, I was at school, I was interested in the world, the Vietnamese War was going on, and it was an unjust war. A lot of us young people wanted to campaign against it. We also wanted a voice about the education system, which we felt was flawed, and it was just there to waste our time rather than to properly educate us, and that hasn't generally improved a lot over the years. So I had a passion to do something, and I left school and I started this magazine, and I suppose ever since then I've come across situations where out of frustration I thought, damn it, let's let's see if we can put this right. I mean, and I know the story I've told before, so forgive me in the audience for letting me tell it again. But I was flying from the British Virgin Islands, from Puerto Rico to the British Virgin Islands, and I was 28 years old, and I'd been away from home for 3 weeks, and I had this gorgeous lady waiting for me, and American Airlines announced that they're not going to fly the flight till the next morning. They didn't have enough passengers. And I was damned if I was going to wait till the next morning. So I went to the back of the airport and I borrowed a blackboard, and I scribbled Virgin Airlines as a joke, $39 one way to the British Virgin Islands, and went around all the passengers, and I managed to fill up my first flight. And when I got to the BVI, the guy on my left turned to me and said, sharpen up the service a bit and you could be in the airline business. And the next day, anyway, the night went well. The next day, she's now my wife 40 years, still 40 years later. The next day I rang up Boeing and I said, I'm thinking of going into the airline business. In fact, I've just had my test flight. Do you have any second-hand 747s for sale? And the person who took the phone call, I thought he was going to put the phone down on me, but he hung on in there. So he said, well, what does your company do? And I said, well, we're a record company. We've got the Rolling Stones. We've got the Sex Pistols. And again, he didn't sound very, and he said, what's the name of the company? And I said, Virgin. And there was a long pause, and he said, well, look, we'll send a salesman to see you, but with a name like Virgin, I just hope your airline goes the whole way. So.